I'm looking forward to this story, mate, because obviously our history is so important to us. But we know that there's been a lot of events that have been held at the Warwick train station. But this one takes us back in time over a century ago when Swiss love came to town.
Yeah, that's right. A bit of romance in town never hurts. But I'll just mention a couple of other events just before that, because in 1917, the Australian Prime Minister Billy Hughes stepped onto the platform at the Warwick railway station and into the middle of a howling mob. An egg was thrown, which knocked off his hat. Pandemonium broke out, and the infamy of the Warwick train station spread across Australia, and that was the start of it. In 1920, the future King Edward VIII visited Warwick for about an hour. He was greeted at the Warwick railway station by the mayor, a band played the national anthem, and the prince was escorted along the platform through the main entrance to where he met and spoke with, for an extended amount of time, returned soldiers. So
Oh,
there's been a lot happening at that station. And just 2 years after the prince was there, this was in 1922. That's when the Warwick railway station hosted a noble Swiss romance. It unfolded right there, and that's what I'll tell you about now.
oh, okay.
See, as the story went, Hermann Koscher was a 23-year-old from Switzerland, described as being a fine, strapping young man. He was an experienced watchmaker, having been employed in a respected watchmaking factory in Switzerland. There, Koscher fell in love and eloped with the daughter of his employer.
Hmm.
Now, the subject of his love was Miss Marie Claire, who was said to be as beautiful as this Swiss love story itself. The couple arrived in Sydney but were unable to find employment, so they went north to Mackay, where Kosher worked in the cane fields. There he was able to save enough money for them to return to Sydney for him to patiently find work in his trade. Now, the loving couple boarded the mail train from Brisbane to Sydney, and as the train drew into the Warwick station, however, sensational events stunned onlookers when Kosher jumped through an open window and fell on his head.
Oh,
Yeah, look, there was a great commotion amongst the passengers as Kosher, running to the end of the train, crossed the railway and threw himself down in front of a stationary engine as if he was praying. All the while, as he was running along, he was calling out that he wanted it all to finish.
oh.
Now, Miss Claire, his lady friend who'd been in the same carriage, was calling out for him to be stopped as he ran down the platform. Now, two railway men who were nearby pulled Kosher away from the train. Two policemen and the railway's head porter then brought Kosher back to the platform. Now, Kosher was really quite distraught, and while struggling with his captors, he put his head through a glass door to the ladies' waiting room. And while he was waiting to be taken, or while he was being taken down the streets on the way to the lockup, he screamed and was crying uncontrollably. The poor young man clearly had had his heart broken. Now, the truth of the matter was that the couple, whose names were actually Herman Tota, not Kosher, and Miss Marie Clerk, not Claire, came out from Switzerland together and were to work for Monsieur Francois Tecon, who was a Swiss schoolteacher at Mount Jukes, just north of Mackay. Mr. Tecon's wife, Aileen, had been the governess of the Prussian Emperor's granddaughter, who by this time was actually the Queen of Sweden.
Oh.
Anyway, Herman and Marie were supposed to have been married before they even left Switzerland, but they eloped and were still not married. So there's a little bit of scandal in this noble family. Marie's parents, although, were actually hotel keepers on the border of Switzerland and France. And from their hotel, they'd seen both German and French armies during the recently finished First World War. Neither Herman nor Marie were actually Swiss jewellers, as reported.
Oh.
Yeah, look, in any case, the heartbroken Herman was checked into the Willowburn Asylum at Toowoomba. And Marie, well, she married another man shortly afterwards and gave birth to a son 9 months later. Her Australian husband had served in the Australian Army at Gallipoli in the First World War, and he would sign up again for the Second World War. So, Damo, although a romantic Swiss love story was revealed on the platform of the Warwick railway station 101 years ago, it quickly morphed into an Australian scandal that I certainly didn't see coming.
Well, no, and poor old Herman.
Yeah, that's right. He got a sore head through the glass, and it was just obviously upsetting for him. He'd thrown in everything in Switzerland to come to Australia, but it just didn't work out for him.
And he never did get to marry his Claire.
No. Or Marie.
Or Marie.
Marie. She was bound for someone else.
Oh, dear me. Well, mate, another great story. And, of course, we'll be able to read this story on your website, won't we?
Yeah, that's right. We go to all the socials and find your way to History Out There, or go straight to the website, historyouthere.com.
Fantastic, mate. As I said, another great story, and we'll look forward to doing it all again next week.
Looking forward to it.
There we go. Harold Peacock, and historyouthere.com is where you can go to read that story and many others. Always a very interesting look into our past and our history. On 4WK, we'll take a break. Back with birthdays.